to dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 12 of Friday Night Flashbacks. And this is our last episode in Series 1 is what we're calling it. We've done a dozen, and we're very excited about what we've done in the last 3 months with Friday Night Flashbacks. But tonight we have a special presentation for you because this is called The Miracle on the Mile. This is going back 25 years and how Actors Playhouse became the tenant and the managing theater company of the Miracle Theater in downtown Coral Gables. And very briefly, for some of you who don't know this, we started 32 years ago in 1988 in a strip mall in Kendall. And we did 7 seasons there, but in the middle of those 7 seasons, one of those seasons was Hurricane Andrew, pretty much just a couple of weeks ago, this time of year. And the mall that we were in went through, some devastation and new landlords and new ownership. And around 1994, we started doing large musicals to try to bring audiences back to the theater. And we realized that we maybe needed to start looking for a new home. And of course, none of that would have happened without my partner, my boss, where the buck stops, the woman who does it all, executive producing director, Barbara S. Stein. Barbara, welcome. Hello.
Hello, Dave.
I'm so happy to have you on Friday Night Flashbacks. I was just talking about the theater in Kendall and how in '94 we had switched to large musicals, but we realized that we needed to start looking at the potential that we might have to find a new space and how important you were in that. And just talk a little bit about how that process began and how the Miracle Theater first came into your binoculars.
Well, as we know, not only did we have to think about where we're going to go in the future, we had landlords in a mall where we were, a strip mall in Kendall, where we started out for 7 years after being slammed by Hurricane Andrew. We knew that we had the opportunity to think about doing anything, including staying in that mall. But the landlords wanted the space because they wanted for more profitable retail. And that gave us the forced opportunity to go seek other opportunities for ourselves. So where did we go? Well, we went to our friends at Wameco, Mike Brown and Art Hertz. They are the individuals, the Wameco company, from whom we bought the Kendall Mall lease in, 1988. And they were our champions then when we first organized as a professional theater company. And when I called them, they said, you have to take some quick action because we have a pending lease for a big black box retail, which is discount retail in this space. And believe it or not, a Dan Marino restaurant.
And that was what was supposed to happen at the Miracle Theater.
They were ready to sign the agreement. It was already ironed out. So they held on the agreement, and he said, you need to go to the city of Coral Gables, contact their development office, and that's where it all began. Contacted the development office, and within a few days, Kathy Swanson, then the development director, was in my office discussing how to take the next move, which was, of course, to talk with Mayor Raúl Valdés-Fauli and City Manager Jack Eads.
Look, folks, let's take a look at Miracle Theater pre-1995. You have to understand that this used to be a 1948 movie palace, and then it was turned into a twoplex, and then it was turned into a fourplex. And we have some wonderful old photos of the Miracle Theater pre-1995, and we just want to show you a little montage of that before we bring on our first guest, the mayor of Coral Gables, and discuss some more things with Barbara Stein and Mayor Raúl Valdés-Fauli. So thank you so much. Stay with us, and we're going to watch a little montage right now of pre-95 Miracle Theater in downtown Coral Gables. And that was Miracle Mile in 1995, pre-Actors Playhouse. As a matter of fact, Barbara, do you remember the, well, we'll talk to the mayor about this, but the last picture they ever showed here was the last picture show. We'll talk to him about that. But changes. So right now I'd like to bring on one of our special guests today, His Honor, Mayor Raúl Valdés-Fauli. Hello, sir.
Mayor.
Hi, how are you?
It's
How
so
you
great
doing?
to see you. Thank you so much. And so for our audience who doesn't know this gentleman was not only the mayor back in 1995 when all of this happened 25 years ago, but he happens to be the mayor now. How often has that happened, sir, in the history of Coral Gables?
That hasn't happened in the history of Coral Gables, but I'm glad to be the first. And my term is over in April of 21, and I'm dying for it to be over. And I promise everybody that I'm not going to run again.
Hi. Well, before you leave your office, we have to celebrate with you as mayor the 25 years we've had in this beautiful city, thanks to you and your commission and your city manager and development manager at that time, who had the foresight to make all this happen. We're so proud of that, Mayor. Thank you so very much.
And I'm very, very proud. And it's one of the best things I've done to bring, well, we have art, we have bookstores, we have the university, of course, great high schools, but live theater, especially the quality that you bring to live theater, is very, very important. At one point in Coral Gables, we had 3 theaters. The Miracle, of course. We had the Coral and the Gables. One was across the street from you, the other one was in Ponds, and those disappeared. And when Wometco expressed the desire to close this one, they wanted to put there a Ross Dress for Less, which is a wonderful store, or subdivide it. And I said, why don't we do something different? And then you, Miracle Theater, Barbara Stein, came along and said, can you think of something? And we thought of something. And Barbara, we're so happy to have you with us. You enrich our city to no end. And I have very fond and not so fond memories of when we had our first meetings. One of the worst meetings I've had, because of the location, not for anything else, was when we met with the city manager in a horrible, it looked like a bat cave in the mezzanine of City Hall. You had to go some dark stairs, iron stairs, and the room was lit. My remembrance is it was lit.
I remember the room you're talking about.
It was horrible.
I can tell you, Mayor, we didn't even recognize that because we were on such a mission. We were there to sell you folks about how we're going to make this happen, and we mean business, and you can trust and count on us. So it didn't matter what was around us. It was just talking to you and Mr. Eads at that time and getting the message across.
And sir, I remember that the city commission had already done an exhaustive study on what the Miracle Theater could become, whether you would run it as a community arts center, whether you would have it managed by a theater company, and then eventually you guys went through a process to determine that you thought the managing theater company was the best option.
We did, and nothing like Actors Playhouse. It was wonderful, and we're very, very happy that you're there. And the first person that talked to me about you all was Leslie Gross, who said, I am very involved. I'm not sure what his position was.
He's one of our board members. Yes, he's still one of our board members. Yeah.
And he was a Harvard Law School classmate of mine, so he's that old. And, although I don't know if he recognizes it or not. And we talked, and I said, we would love to have them here. And it's a quality show, and I love it. And then that's what got me started on this.
Exactly.
Well, I must say that this is a role model private-public partnership. It was so much so that we've actually been consulting with other communities about how government and private individuals and companies can get together. And what happened in our project is the city bought the building, and then you bought the real estate as well. That was a very good move. But our obligation in this project was to build it, fundraise for it, pay all the expense, and manage it into a 3-stage performing arts center, which I would say over the years is in excess of about $10 million. And a portion of that was of major in-kind services, but not frivolous in-kind services, major cost.
No, real costs, real cost. We'll talk with John Fullerton about that a little bit later. Mr. Mayor, I'm just curious. You know, you had culture in Coral Gables, but it was art galleries, and of course the museum is recent. You yourself were such an advocate for the theater to stay. Do you have a background in music or theater or culture? What's your background in wanting to make sure that, realizing that culture would bring foot traffic to downtown Coral Gables and give it an economic stir?
No, I don't have a background. I love art, whether it's plastic art or, I don't know, concerts and theater. I think it's a wonderful addition. And I'm very, very proud that my 15 grandkids, that I have the privilege of taking them to your performances. The last one may have been Evita, I'm not sure which one, or the Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia. Yeah, Mamma Mia. I take them to many, so I'm not sure what I took them last. And I'm very, very happy to expose them to this. And I thank you all for making it possible for me to pass this cultural vein or this cultural interest to my grandchildren from 5 years old to 18, 19 now.
Well, you know, Mayor, that's interesting. We have brought about 2.5 million young people to the theater over the years. And I have to tell you, I'm pledging to you now on behalf of my organization, our board of directors, Dave and myself and Earl, who working so hard. We are going to be here for the long run, way beyond this pandemic. Our plans are secure. We've made good business plans over the years for sustainability. Yes, we need the help from the community now, like nobody's business, like all the arts organizations. And we're going to ask for the help. Our big auction's coming up. We're going to ask for it a lot then. But we pledge to you to be here so that this institution will continue to succeed itself and grow way beyond all of our years. This is our goal for this community. We're dedicated to what you did in believing in us and what this entire community has done as a nonprofit to supporting us with millions of dollars, maybe up to the billions now over the years.
Well, way beyond Barbara and Dave, that's for sure. That's our goal.
One of the things you can auction is David's help and services for a year doing whatever the city needs and wants. And I'll pay $10 million for that.
We'll take it. How's that for quick hits?
All right, we just made a deal.
Thank you very much.
Pleased to have you with us. You're a very important part of our community, and I pledge to you personally and on behalf of the city, to the extent I can, that you have our full commitment to helping Actors Playhouse.
Thank you so much.
We thank you. And we know that we are going to be a part, and I talked to the two of you candidly about this, but to our audience too, that we are going to have to be part of the revitalization of the Mile again. It's going to happen again.
And you bring so many people to the Mile that it is very, very important for us, from restaurants and bars, people walking around, shoppers. You're wonderful for Miracle Mile.
Well, we thank you, sir.
It's wonderful for us too. I've got to tell you, this has been such a love relationship. We're so proud of, I mean, every group of commissioners that come in and the people who are so proud of having this in the community. I can only say that we need to make more people know of who we are, a regional professional theater in the community. I'm not sure that everybody understands that entirely. I have to tell you, when we recently produced the show Memphis, which was the signature show for this theater, amazing, amazing Broadway musical, I had an unsolicited call from somebody, a woman who had lived in Coral Gables who moved to Brickell. And she called me up out of the blue and she said, I've got to compliment you in your show. It was like being on Broadway. And she said, I lived in Coral Gables for 10 years and I never came to your theater. I never realized that you were as professional as you are. And my husband bought tickets to entertain a client from China and I reluctantly went with him and I was blown away. And these are the comments we get over the years. And what we have to do better is just to get out to the community to let them know this jewel is a professional regional theater, the biggest in Miami-Dade County, right here in Coral Gables.
You know, Barbara, just over my shoulder is a letter from Donna Shalala about our production of Memphis that either someone on our staff or she came to see, complimenting us on our professionalism and what we've done to Coral Gables. And Mr. Mayor, we can't thank you enough for being the gentleman who was there in '95 and the gentleman who is still there today. And let's have a Friday night flashback toast for 25 years.
25 years.
Theater. And sir, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to look at some pictures now of the demolition and the transformation, not total transformation, because we want to talk to John Fullerton of the Miracle Theater. And sir, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr.
very,
Mayor.
very much for the opportunity of being a part of you.
You're more than
It's
welcome.
our honor and our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
10 million.
To right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm.
And what a pleasure to be able to have a conversation with Mayor Raúl Valdés-Fauli, who really, I found out myself for the first time that he's the only mayor who had served two terms separately with other mayors in between. I was fascinated with that. And Barbara Stein, the executive producing director, who is, by the way, folks, just so you know, Barbara's working remotely from home. This is her loft office. And let me just say something. None of this would have happened without the fortitude and the futuristic planning and vision of Dr. Lawrence E. Stein, who really, it was his, well, you talk about it, Barbara, his love of theater that started all this.
Absolutely. And Dr. Lawrence E. Stein, that be my husband, okay? I will say that he had the great opportunity in 1988 to have a wonderful dental patient, Mike Brown. Larry's a retired dentist. And Mike was part of the Womeco team, the president of Womeco Enterprises, who owned a movie theater in a strip suburban mall in Kendall Mall, which actually is where Larry practiced dentistry. And he said, I've got this for sale. And it's almost sold. And Larry said, don't sell it. I'll buy the lease and we'll start live theater.
And Barbara went crazy. And Barbara went crazy at that point and became the leader of the theater. And then think about the fact that this is the same person that turned us on to the Miracle Theater. And now you've learned about how the process of how we came to Coral Gables, but there was a gentleman that was mentioned earlier that Barbara latched onto when he came to Kendall to see our theater and learn a little bit more. And that's the architect of the entire renovation of the Miracle Theater, Mr. John Fullerton.
Hey,
Hi guys, how's
How are you,
everybody?
John?
Such a pleasure to have you with us today, really.
Wow.
I mean, you know, Barbara mentioned earlier a little bit about her first meeting with you and Kendall, that you had come down because you were working on the youth center. And then she said, how would you like your name in lights? And just tell us a little bit how important the Miracle Theater renovation was to you and why you jumped on board. And not only jumped on board, but jumped on board as a pro bono architect for this entire project.
Well, yeah, that was a big step in my practice too. But I had been serving on the Historic Preservation Board for years and have a very deep respect for our city's history. And the Miracle Theater, I went to several movies at the Miracle Theater, among which was Jaws, and where I stood in front of this theater and had to walk all the way around the block to get in. And then the last picture show on the last night, just before we started the renovations. And so it has a deep history for me and my family. And so I love that place. And I love the architecture of it when it was a massive theater with the balcony and everything before it was split up. And it happened at the time, I don't know if Barbara mentioned all these details, but I was working on the youth center and we were doing a little theater inside the new youth center. So I said, well, where could I find somebody that knows something about theaters? And I think Ron Robinson took me and my wife at the time to a play there out west.
In Kendall.
Place. Yeah, in Kendall. And then I came back from that being very impressed and said, I got to talk to Barbara. And
then Barbara got you, John.
I said to him, how would you like to see your name in lights? And then I explained what I was talking about. And I just want you to know, we said thank you a million times.
Oh,
but
yeah.
What the community should know, had you not said yes, maybe this would never have happened. Your yes that day gave us the energy and the fuel to go to everybody else down the line to get them on board with the project. And that got the city to vote for us to be the managing group to make it happen. So you are the hero. Thank you.
Wow. Well, I didn't know that, but I was so pleased to be able to do it. But the way it happened, we came up into your office on the second floor at that time.
That tiny
little narrow stairway up there. And we had said our thank yous and everything. We were getting ready to leave. And I was walking down the steps. And you said at the top of the steps, Mr. Fullerton, could you come back up here for a minute? And that was it. That was all over.
And then came the pitch. Remember, but John, you also brought us, not people, for folks back who are watching, you don't understand that this whole process was done in phases, this whole development and renovation of this theater. And without John and his architectural firm giving the services pro bono that they did, not only for phase one, but for several phases of the theater that were done. He also was, talk to us about the mechanical engineer you brought on board and the structural engineer and acquisition also, because you brought them all on board.
Well, yeah, they were an important, integral part of the whole team. Rene Basulto was a MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer with a great firm, and with whom we've been doing a lot of work here in South Florida. And he's just a super, super nice guy and a very, very engaging and wanting to be part of things. And he jumped in with all fours and said, absolutely, I'll come on board and help you with whatever I can do. And
then Douglas Wood. Somehow we got Doug Wood, who was a prominent structural engineer, up and coming structural engineer.
Absolutely, he was well thought of in the Coral Gables area too. Doug and I did a lot of work together. He doing the structural work. And he's another one who has just jumped right in and did everything he could. He's a little more serious and down to earth, but he really jumped in with all.
No, he cared a great deal. He worked very hard on the project.
He did.
And then there was that lovely man who was just a little bit crazy. The acquisition. What was his name?
Claude
Vinet.
Claude Vinet. He was a guy. He was a gentleman. I think he was French. He came into our office one evening or one afternoon and was talking to me about how you control sound. And I said, wow, could this be better timed? We were just talking about how to contain the sound situation in that big auditorium. That was when we were doing phase one, and it was a whole theater at that time. Yeah. And so I talked to him about it, and he came in and he did the same thing. He just got, I think everybody got so interested and involved in being involved in that theater. And of course, Barbara was, and you, David, were no small part of talking people into doing things. You know, you guys were great.
Barbara is the queen of that.
Yes.
I'm the guy.
When you believe in something so strongly and it's for the good of all mankind, it isn't hard. You know what I mean? It's not self-serving. It's for the community, and people really respected that of us, and they knew this was a very important project for the community, and so we did our job. But we passionately believe in what we do in theater and the benefit of theater and what it does to fuel the soul and to create prosperity and a community economic benefit. We believe in it so strongly, and we just sold it to everybody, our beliefs. And thank goodness, because look what we have because of it now.
And so in April of 1995, it was voted that we would become the managing company. We had already met with John. He was already on board. We had Renee, we had Doug. I don't know if we had Claude Benet yet, but we began the process. And believe it or not, folks, between April and November, we opened the theater in 1995, and we couldn't even get in the theater. Remember that permitting process, John? How many times was I in your office? Oh my God.
Wow. I woke up with you and I went to bed with you.
And Barbara was sitting in the top second floor backstage, just like hammering orders.
Yeah. And my daughter Stephanie was the conductor of the orders.
That's right.
With after college.
It was such an amazing time. We all worked so hard. But go ahead, John. Say what you were going to say.
No, I was going to say my business manager at that time asked me if I was supposed to be writing checks to you. You were in our office so much.
I can never forget. I would come and I would sit in John's office, and I would know he would be so busy with other projects. And finally he'd let me into the conference room, and I would see people walking by the windows, like just giving me dirty looks.
Never dirty looks, never.
But anyway, Mr. Fullerton made this happen, and we found those blueprints from Barbara. I think you discovered or somehow tracked down the blueprints from Philadelphia, the original.
I did. I forget how I did it, but I tracked them down, and we had the original blueprints, and we photographed them in blue. There's a process, and they're hanging up at the theater walls. And the actual, well, they look like the actual blueprints. But
and John and I discovered something that we didn't know, because the sidewalls were red and yellow burlap curtains, and all of a sudden we see these art relief. Remember these art relief things that are on the walls, and we decided, let's pull it down and let's see what's behind it. And the plaster relief was all still there.
It was all still there in great shape.
And John, so, your brother was instrumental in creating a magnificent poster for us, and the original copy of the relief, which is a very large original form of the theater.
Well, what a lot of people don't know is that when the movie screen was changed and the stage was built, Wometco had already demolished what is over my shoulder right here, which used to be on either side of the movie screen. Now the side reliefs were still there, but the relief on either side of the movie screen was gone, because the movie screen is back further. We actually built the stage out, remember, John, like 50 feet from the back wall, because we didn't have any wing space. And so John's brother, will you talk about that, John? John's brother came in and somehow figured out how to make the drawing and then do the relief work.
Well, yeah, we built the stage out so that we could make a proscenium, framework around the stage, so you could have a place to hide the curtains and stuff like that. And we needed something to complement the bas-relief that was on the walls. And my brother came along. He made that poster as a mock-up of what might be done there. And then he blew it up to the size that it is now on each side of the stage.
Each side of the proscenium arch.
Yeah. And then, you remember on the side there was this deep reveal wainscot that goes all the way along the side that had lighting in it. And Renee Basulto and family got that all working again. And that was a major turning point, I think, in making that theater what it is today.
Yeah, I
Just
still
the
can't
lighting.
believe, I still can't believe that he got that in pieces, looking exactly like the relief on the side walls.
Yeah.
And then when we light it, and now we're lighting it with LED in the wainscoting that you're discussing.
Well,
But
my brother was a real artisan. He was a wonderful artist and a great craftsman. He did a lot of beautiful things like that. He worked he worked at Vizcaya for many years he restored a lot of the famous sculptures there. And he's an artist in his own right. The piece behind me here is one of his also. It's a photograph of a large metal structure that he did that was that I have actually. So anyway,
yeah, you know what else is amazing? This plaster in the high ceilings in the main stage. And John, I'll never forget. You know, we've retained all that beautiful wood, and in fact, there are very few things that we didn't have to convert that are historic in that interior of the building and the exterior as well. But I'll never forget how when we added the elevator, how you made sure that the elevator was square looking as opposed to rounded curved walls, because you didn't want that to interfere with the historic elements that were there as opposed to the new element.
yeah, talk about that for a minute, John. It was very interesting to me because the lobby has lots of curves, lots of rounds. And you were saying, listen, if we're going to put wood on the elevator, we can't have it look like it's always been here. You know?
That's right. That's kind of a tenet in historic restoration, is the new things should not resemble or try to emulate or reproduce the existing the details in the original work.
That were there, that were
right. So you have to be able to. It's appropriate for them to be. You could tell one from the other. You know, the original from the new stuff, and that's really part of what the National Register for Historic Places requires when you do a restoration. So
yeah,
we had to do that.
And I had never known that, and I thought that was fascinating. And I listen, I agreed with whatever you said. I mean, folks, you have to remember that the original drawings for this theater were to just gut it. And when John came on board, it was, no, let's keep this Art Deco, Art Moderne style, this what I like to call like an old yacht, this teak wood, all of this beautiful curves, and it's just the fact that we went through this project with historical preservation in mind from the very beginning, I think is what makes people love to come back to the Miracle.
I think so too. I do. I love coming back. You guys do such a wonderful job every year that it's always fun to catch up with you.
I mean, we're so proud of our shows, but we're very proud of the work that we did. And then it was opening night, folks, November 1995. We'd done all of this work, and all of a sudden
let me capture this a little bit. It was opening
I'll
night.
pass it to Barbara.
And we've done all this work. Dave is we're putting seats in the auditorium, by the way, as he's doing his last bit of tech rehearsal for Man of La Mancha, which is the theater's signature opening night show. We opened that at our original theater as well. Very important show to us. The impossible dream came true. 900 guests were expected to attend, okay? 900 guests, because
you have to remember the balcony was open at that time, so we just set up there. We just set up chairs up there, so there were people
to do it, a one-night stand, because it was, you know, safety reasons, and the bathrooms, all the plumbing went kapooey. So and so everybody, 900 people, in this glorious opening night, which was really glorious and unexpected. The crowds,
women in gowns and men in tuxedos, and
they had to go next door to the restaurant that wasn't existing then and use a construction bathroom.
They had to use a construction bathroom, exactly. Because I remember my musical director coming out of the pit at intermission and saying, "I think it's going well, Dave. What do you think?" I go, "It's hot as hell and the bathrooms were overflowing."
I remember that. I remember that. I was so grateful that I lived close by. I could run home and go to the restroom and then come back.
But, you know, we got it all working. We got it all open. And then poor John had to face the fact that we wanted to turn the balcony, which was wide open, into another theater, into a 300-seat theater. And that might be where we did as much work, if not more.
I think more.
On the original, the work.
That was much more complicated.
We
That
had
was
to
much more
demolition
complicated.
part of the original in order to shoot down the demolition product to be able to reconstruct. The
Yeah, we
demolition,
got the idea because they had done the fourplex, but remember that their floors weren't built to code, John. And then we had to go to Doug, and then of course he built those pillars with the footers that we could have built the Empire State Building on.
That's
top
right.
of.
Yeah, Doug Wood came through, man. He did a wonderful job. And I remember the afternoon that we had those, I don't know, they seemed like 50-foot long steel I-beams brought through the front door.
Oh my God.
That was unbelievable.
That one center beam that came in that back door was the biggest beam I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I never worked on a
I know.
so everybody has to understand it's coming through the backstage of the main stage auditorium.
On a crane.
Going over the stage on a crane, and then going over 600 seats, and then up into
some of which we had to remove in order to do, because we brought in 20 tons of steel through the back door.
I don't think that actually happened. I think we all dreamed that, and it just somehow it happened, just got together.
Let's just take a quick look at some of what we're talking about right now and this balcony theater transformation, because we have some great shots of this. Okay?
Oh, good.
It's really incredible.
I closed my eyes, drew back the curtain to see for certain what I thought I knew. Far, far away, someone was weeping, but the world was sleeping. Any dream will do. I wore my coat with golden lining, bright colors shining, wonderful and new. And in the east, the dawn was breaking, and the world was waking. Any dream will do. A crash of drums, a flash of light, my golden coat flew out of sight. The colors faded into darkness, I was left alone. May I return to the beginning.
And that was the beginning of the building of the balcony theater. We call it the balcony theater. We couldn't come up with a better name. It just continued that way. And remember, John, when you were talking earlier about Claude Binet, that was one of his, first of all, let's have a toast. A toast to 25 years ago and what we accomplished, okay? And so many people that helped us. So salud.
Salud.
So
you
many
guys.
people helped us. But Claude Binet,
To the energy and creative talent in your organization there.
thank you, John.
Oh, thank you
so
thank
much.
you so much.
And remember that Claude came up with, remember the sound box below, and then we found those diffuser blocks. And talk about that a little bit, John, about the separation of sound.
That was where Claude really shone. He really came into his own with the sound control in the upstairs theater to separate it from the downstairs theater. You could have two things going on at the same time with bands and music and everything, and one didn't bother the other. I was always stunned and amazed by that ability to do it. I know there were times when there were probably some conflicts, but pretty much he took care of it really well. I was very impressed.
Well, there's always conflicts in this business.
And roller coaster.
But
you know what's interesting too, Dave and John? I remember one of the things we had to get was soundproofing brick for the backstage. And it was basically the kind of support we got globally. We called a company up that was a company in maybe Milwaukee, and asked for this donation. It was a $5,000 value, and those stones were sent down to us for the soundproofing of that wall.
Yeah, I remember they were called diffuser blocks. I never they were cinder blocks that they basically diffused and absorbed and separated.
That's right. They confuse the movement of the.
But
of the
it was
sound.
great. And then Claude came up with the idea, and along with you, John, that we would have the blocks and then air, and then drywall, and then air, and then drywall. And that was how we created the soundproofing. And then
That's
he
right.
figured out the sound traps underneath that
Yeah.
created the sound coming down from above. It really was amazing. It was an amazing
Yeah,
project.
he did a great job. He did a
And
really
I
great
still
job.
don't know how I did all this with you and crawled. Remember how many, we discovered so many places in the building. Remember, I would crawl through these spaces to try to find more space. How the hell, can we put bathrooms? Remember the Freddy Krueger room?
Well, that's when we had to blow out the front of the
Freddy Krueger,
building
I
to bring
forgot.
the air conditioner in. I
Yeah,
remember that.
Yeah.
we used to call, when we first came here, folks, the air conditioning was literally, you walked into a room and there was this huge air handling unit, and you had to open a door and you walked inside an air handler. It was the most amazing thing you ever saw from 1948. And eventually we had to blow out the whole back and bring in new air handlers through Coltec Engineering, who were part of that project, in Lorenzo. And it was just amazing that we were able to pull it. But for years, we used to just call it the Freddy Krueger room, because when you went inside there,
We still call it the Freddy
Yeah.
Krueger room.
It felt dangerous just to be in there.
and then there was this block wall, and we had no idea what was between the block wall and the third floor, and we couldn't figure out what was this 4 foot of space. And it was just air, and that's where we put the bathrooms for the dressing rooms for upstairs.
That's right.
It was
That's
really
right.
amazing. Mr. Fullerton, it has been a pleasure to talk to you. And he stayed with us through the phases that put in the black box and the loft in the back and the dressing room
And
renovation.
beyond, he's our consultant all the time. Anytime we ask, he's a
You know,
gem.
it does make me feel good that you continue to call me and keep me involved. I felt like I did feel like an integral part of your team there for a long time. And it's fulfilling to be able to stay involved. So
John,
Wow.
you are always part of our team. You're part of the history of this Miracle Theater's sustainability as a historic building. And if it weren't for you, it absolutely wouldn't have gone this far. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
no, I'm proud to do.
And we're gonna say goodbye to John Fullerton right now with applause. Thank you, Mr. Fullerton. And thank
Bye,
you,
John.
Mr. Fullerton. So Barbara, here we are 25 years later, and I think it's very interesting that when we talked to the mayor earlier, that we talked about the incredible cornerstone that the Miracle Theater was in the revitalization of the mile and the economy of downtown Coral Gables. And then we might just have to do this all over again. You know, I mean, I think we're ready for it. I know you're ready for it. So folks, we're so excited about the fact that you were able to watch this tonight, and please send the word along about the Miracle Theater and Actors Playhouse and everything that has happened here. We were so grateful for the mayor and John Fullerton to join us tonight. And I pass the end of tonight's Friday Night Flashback to Barbara Stein, who holds all of this together. And thank you, Barbara.
Oh, Dave, it's a pleasure. It's with the love of my heart and my family's whole desire to continue the process of sustaining this wonderful institution, Actors Playhouse, continuing to expand what the Miracle Theater is to the community. And friends, you've learned so much tonight. This is just a little tiny bit of the story of building this theater in partnership with the city of Coral Gables. 25 years, we just can't believe it. Of course, Actors Playhouse is a regional professional theater celebrating 32 years. But the last 25 years, we've grown so we've become a real icon in this community. We're a major cultural institution in Miami-Dade County and a presenting cultural organization for the state of Florida. And all because of individuals like the mayor and John Fullerton, all of their teams, this great community of supporters who have dedicated tons of dollars to not only building the Miracle Theater, but giving us a chance to do what we do best in the community culturally to enrich you and your families. We hope you've enjoyed a little piece of the story. This is only the beginning of how we're going to celebrate the 25 years. And there isn't anything in the world, not even a pandemic, that's going to stop Actors Playhouse from growing and being there for you in the community for generations to come. I'd like to ask for your great support. Please continue to support us, subscribe with us, join us for our programming. Give your dollars. Anything would be supportive and helpful to this institution. Nothing is too small and nothing is too large. We really would appreciate you considering Actors Playhouse as your charitable contribution this year. You can text Give AP 243-725. You can go to actorsplayhouse.org and contribute. Or on September 12th, you can join us for our 29th annual Reach for the Stars Gala auction. We have such a surprise for you. We have a celebrity presentation to kick off the auction that night. And I can tell you the prizes we have, which are all going up on our website today, are simply amazing. They're items that I don't think any other organization anywhere gets contributed to them. All those wonderful supporters are contributing fully to the auction, which means that your support can even be more meaningful to us. Please be part of our miracle. Please join us in any way you can. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. See you soon at the Miracle Theater.
To reach the unreachable.